Hello and welcome to the Taste Basket Podcast, a podcast devoted to the discussion and appreciation of arts and entertainment, old and new. My name is Dan Porman. This is our second episode. As always, joining me today, you want to tell them your name?
Hello, my name is Kevin Redding. You may have heard Dan and I discuss a plethora of things on our first episode, which you can also listen to if you haven't listened to it already.
Currently on Podbean and YouTube.
We're Podbeaners. We've leaped over the first hurdle of doing a first podcast. We have that behind us now, so it's all fun and games for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the obstacle. We got past the first one.
Right.
It was listenable, which is good.
Yeah, now we're just sort of having fun.
Yeah, we're just the ball's in our court,
and we have the ball.
Oh yeah, we do.
Okay.
And what better way to use the ball than to talk about Saul? And
right.
That's what we're going to be doing today.
Yes.
We're going to be discussing the Breaking Bad spinoff, Better Call Saul. It's
if I may, Kevin.
Sure.
Whoa.
Sure.
Well, I kind of had a little... the only thing I wrote down was this kind of introduction.
Right, you wanted to build it up. And
it would first introduce Breaking Bad.
All right. Well, yeah, let's hear your official version, and at least I got the people going. Now people know what we're going to be talking about. So
right, exactly.
Ease them into it a little bit. Suspend
your disbelief, folks. So here's my obviously scripted introduction. In January of 2008.
Oh man, we're going back.
American television was about to be rocked by a new drama with a particularly beat premise. Let's take this milquetoast high school chemistry teacher in New Mexico. Let's throw him in the middle of the Albuquerque meth kingdom and watch him simultaneously discover and destroy himself therein.
That kind of premise was done before in the past with like Home Improvement and Family Matters.
Right.
But this was done differently because of the acting and the caliber of the writing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Of course, we're talking about Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad, which some may now consider the successor to the throne of premier television that was prior held by The Sopranos.
Yes.
That might be a bold statement, but I made it. It's now almost been 2 years since Breaking Bad ended, and now, in 2015, in fact, the 8th of February, just this past week, we've been treated with a new series from Gilligan, his partner Thomas Schnauz, and the whole team. A spin-off, as Kevin said, but not a spin-off in the sense that Frasier is to Cheers or Joey is to Friends, but a prequel that is also a sequel, and as we paid, if the media, the reports don't let us down, this sort of perspective shift and this parallel narrative with the Breaking Bad universe. Although this time, of course, we are through the lens of Saul Goodman, formerly Jimmy McGill, played by Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, and it's great because it already from the first two episodes which have aired, we get the sense of familiarity from Breaking Bad, but also that it's going to be its own beast. It's kind of got its own style, and it's slightly lighter and funnier than Breaking Bad, but it's just very cool to, it's very much in the same universe as Breaking Bad, but it's already got its own voice.
Yeah,
cool.
Super cool that they wanted to go with Saul for the spinoff.
Yeah.
You know, simply because someone who's maybe watching Breaking Bad for the first time, maybe watching the first couple episodes where Saul is is becoming a presence. So what, late season 2, and maybe in the
Yeah.
middle of season 3 or whatever. You kind of, before the series Breaking Bad gets considerably darker, you kind of might be able to consider that Saul Goodman is the comedic relief of the television show.
Right.
And, interesting that we're doing a spin-off on the comedic relief. And of course, as Kevin mentioned, it's going to be a little more obviously a comedy. It's going to be marketed more strongly as a dark comedy. But there is still that lingering dramatic darkness that we all know and love from Breaking Bad. Right off the bat, from the opening, the cold open of the first episode of Better Call Saul. He's working at Cinnabon.
Yes.
And it looks like it's Cinnabon, one of those Cinnabons that's in like an airport or something. It is in an airport.
Or is it a mall? I don't know.
Mall or an airport, someplace where there's a lot of people and it's more like a kiosk than a place in its own right. Again, cinematically, Gilligan and his crew are capturing the beauty in something as absurd and simpleton and quotidian as making cinnamon rolls. And,
those cinnamon rolls look so good in that opening.
And Saul, you can tell, it's almost implied he's become a seasoned pro.
Yeah, he's really good at this. New passion for him.
But of course, in the sense that it's cinematic and evocative, it is absolutely melancholic and depressing.
Because it really hits. It kind of hits you. I kind of reminded myself that he had already experienced all the events of Breaking Bad, and this was just kind of like the repercussion of all of that. He was just like, in the opening, he's kind of got the new identity. He's got the mustache. His hair is kind of, he's losing his hair, and he's just like clearly been put through the ringer, and this is definitely like a post-Heisenberg life for him.
And to think that one man and his sort of ridiculous actions did this to him.
Yeah.
Single-handed, one fell swoop,
Yeah, one man.
And of course, it's overtly sad when we saw at home watching old videotapes of his old commercials as Saul Goodman. Of course, if you've watched Breaking Bad, which all of you should have, we know that he has had to change his identity in order to protect himself. And so he's no longer Saul Goodman.
Yeah. And there's a very cool moment in that intro when he's like, working Cinnabon, where this guy kind of catches his eye. And
I was going to talk about that too. That was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, the panic just kind of like falls over Saul's face because he thinks, this could be like the lingering of, one of the Heisenberg, messes. So the guy catches his eye, and Saul's, he looks like he knows he's gonna get killed very soon. So the guy gets up, starts like walking towards him. Saul gulps a few times, I think, and then the
close up on his brow.
The guy eventually, walks past Saul. He wasn't looking at Saul at all. He was,
he saw someone he recognized.
Right. That's a great little moment. I was already like really tense at that point.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember, Kev, but that sort of device of paranoia, seeing someone who you think may be affiliated with this crime ring and you don't want to really take a step closer. That happened in the episode Rabid Dog of season 5 of Breaking Bad. when Hank is sort of cooperating with Jesse and trying to nab Walt.
Right.
And he's sort of very much against, much to Jesse's chagrin, and considering Jesse's horrified of Walt at this stage in the game. Hank is in a van and Gomey's there too, and they've got a wire on Jesse, and they want Jesse to meet up with Walt to talk about the fact that he tried to burn down his house and sort of discuss things, and that's going to get the information, that's going to get a confession from Walt. They're going to be able to come in, bring Walt in on the charges, bring him into prison. Would have been much less like a much cleaner outcome. But anyways, my point being, when Jesse is approaching Walt, who's sitting on a bench, there is like a tall, bald, like hulking, intimidating man a few feet away from Walt sitting on the bench. Jesse spots him, and it looks like the man is looking at Jesse. It's the same thing. Jesse's about to take a few steps to see Walt. He decides against it because he hatches a new plan, much to Hank's frustration. But when Jesse leaves, we see the big hulking man go like pick his daughter up or something.
Just in that opening, you notice physically that Saul is very reminiscent of early season 1 Walt. He's got the mustache, very similar glasses, fading hair, and you wonder if that was done intentionally. There's a couple little things like in Better Call Saul, he starts out James McGill, that's his real name. He hasn't become Saul Goodman yet, and Better Call Saul is kind of the transformation of this guy, kind of this dweebish, doesn't know who he is kind of guy, and he kind of transforms himself into this larger-than-life Saul Goodman, who's kind of, a cartoon character, and it kind of mirrors Breaking Bad, where Walt transforms himself from a dweebish teacher into this larger-than-life kind of kingpin.
Right. And it almost, it makes you wonder, because we have no idea of where Saul and any other characters in his future narrative, we have no idea where they'll be going, what they'll be doing, because that's a part of the universe we don't know. We have the advantage sort of knowing a little bit about Saul's past, not much, but enough to know that he's not going to die because Breaking Bad has to happen first, and nothing too monumental is going to happen. I shouldn't say that, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then
the stakes for Saul are kind of safe at this point, we're saying.
Yeah, and
especially in the
right, and it's interesting you say that, because the stakes are safe, but especially in my viewing, I still felt suspense, and I was still engrossed and felt that the stakes were high. We know nothing fatal is going to happen to Saul, to Mike, to any of the returning characters. But there are new people sort of entering as part of the past, as part of Saul's past, which are sort of informing a new viewing, which, though lighter than Breaking Bad considerably, is still pretty suspenseful.
Right at the start, we're at a trial, but guess what? The the defending lawyer is nowhere to be found, and we find out that that defending lawyer is James McGill, who is in the bathroom.
Yeah, very 8 Mile in the bathroom. Kind of a dingy bathroom, kind of preparing, kind of sweating, and
racking his brain about what he's gonna say. He's talking.
There's vomit on his suit already. Mom's spaghetti,
And then it becomes the lawyer mode is on, and he bursts into the courtroom, and he's on. He's got that Saul Goodman confidence, and he struts right in. he's great. He's got the charm, and yeah, it's very cool because you can very clearly see that that's an act that he puts on. He doesn't like believe in the innocence of you know who he's defending at all.
Mm-hmm.
You find out later that he's very clearly just he wants that paycheck. But
Right.
it's a very cool kind of you see him very clearly getting into that mindset of what will become Saul Goodman, kind of that lawyer character he has.
Yeah, that over the top sort of ringleader showman,
Right.
billboard lawyer bullshit that
Yeah.
is, like skeevy, but also just so
Yeah.
charming, so endearing.
Right.
Especially because we know of Saul from Breaking Bad. We know his calling card. We know what he's all about. We're familiar with his brilliant scheming process. I mean,
Yeah.
the man,
A good schemer.
yeah, the man, for being kind of like a lawyer that's kind of crooked and maybe one that isn't respected by upstanding professionals. He nonetheless is an extremely talented lawyer.
He is, yeah.
He knows how to negotiate every situation he's in terms of legalities. He
Yeah.
knows every outcome. He's always one step ahead of his clients, and
Right.
he's down in the dumps. The beginning of Better Call Saul.
Even though it's blasphemous, like everyone should watch Breaking Bad, but what if someone just watches Better Call Saul? Do you think it would stand, on its own?
That is a good question, and it's something that I, inevitably had turned over in my head too. Um,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think maybe the show won't feel as great to those people
Right.
as it does to us and to the people who've watched Breaking Bad. Um, I don't know. I think it could still work, but I feel like some of
Yeah.
the winky charm is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whereas someone who's seen Breaking Bad will be able to call Better Call Saul a genius show.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
I think the first time viewer of Better Call Saul, the person having never seen Breaking Bad, could recognize it's an interesting, well written, quirky, good show, but not see any of its brilliance. They'll be just like, oh, it's a good show. I'm engrossed. I'll keep up with it. But, they don't have that attachment that Breaking Bad fans do. And then, of
Right.
course, we see Tuco Salamanca return, which is the burning,
Oh, yeah.
presence of these
Yeah.
first two episodes. The hugest talking point, I would say.
It's like the ultimate cliffhanger at the end. Like Saul ends up at Tuco's house, and he's pulled in by Tuco. Tuco sticks his head out, gives a little look around, and it's that ultimate like fuck moment.
Yeah.
Like everyone feels that from having seen Tuco in Breaking Bad.
And interesting that we get that feeling of dread at the tail end of an episode, which is otherwise this sort of origin story.
Yeah.
Not a morbid thing, maybe aside from the fact that the first clients of Saul's we see are those high school kids who broke in and fornicated with the detached head, which yeah, I mean, but that's
Yeah.
that's funny, okay? It just is. But but
Yeah.
Tuco coming in at the end there is that that terrifying
Yeah.
end note
Yeah.
where you're like, wow, we were just watching an insurance like scam here, and
Yeah.
we were just watching the Saul painted in like a heroic light,
Right.
showing these two newcomers, these new scammers, how to scam correctly. And all of a sudden, we're thrown back into the horror that is Tuco Salamanca.
It's like a total punch in the gut, like reminder
Yeah.
of like what universe we're in. But you were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but just the greatness of the Tuco character, because in Better Call Saul, he's a very different Tuco than the one we know in Breaking Bad. Like, it's very clearly pre Heisenberg meth world, and he's not. He's much more sober, and he's
collected. He's not a user at all, which is scary.
Right, he's like strictly like a businessman in this one,
And I actually, if we're going to talk about Tuco now, if we've come to that point of the show, found it interesting, and there's a million interviews out there ever since these first 2 episodes came out. Everyone's been jumping on Raymond Cruz, the actor who plays Tuco Salamanca. I would say absolutely brilliantly. And on this interview that I located, like I said, there's a sea of right now with Raymond Cruz, but one on Rotten Tomatoes, which sort of piqued my interest. Sarah Richard from Rotten Tomatoes, she asked Raymond Cruz a couple of really great questions. I had read an interview with you a couple of years ago. You were saying that it was really difficult, that your wife really wasn't into it regarding the role of Tuco. Cruz says, my wife hated it. She hated Tuco. She hated the energy. When you're building these characters, you're not only changing and altering your thought process, but when you're looking for the emotional support to the character, it's all energy. So it's a whole different feel than what she's used to. I've been doing major crimes for the last 11 years, and she likes that character a lot. Tuco is this wild beast. My wife is like, get away from me. And then she asks him, how would you characterize Tuco? I've seen him described as a psychopath. I've read the interpretation. He just does what he knows. Where does he fall into that range for you? Cruz says, I never thought of him as a bad guy. Does every actor who plays the role of a psychopath feel obligated to say that? I want to see an actor who's like, oh yeah, he sucks. He's terrible.
I hope the actor who plays Todd has that moment where he knows he's a terrible person. I never really saw Todd as a bad guy.
You could be like my girlfriend who just recently watched Breaking Bad, who said that, I don't know, Todd's very polite. And I was like, oh no, he's winning you over. You're another one of his victims. He's endearing because he's polite, and it's like, oh, he's like the scariest one. But so he says, I never thought of him as a bad guy. There are lots of people who say he's terrible, he's evil. I've never looked at the character that way. I don't think I've ever looked at any character that way. I don't make a judgment. I just look at what he's doing and how he's trying to do it. He's very passionate. He's not the most cerebral guy, but he is smart. I'm talking about this. He's almost like a dog. They feel you out. We saw that with Breaking Bad. He'll feel you out. He'll take emotionally what he's getting from you, and then he doesn't hold back. With a lot of characters, when you're reading them and trying to build, you're looking at what the parameters are. I never found parameters for Tuco. Excuse me. Emotional or mental. When we were doing Breaking Bad, everything he did was altered by the blue meth that he was taking because it heightens everything. There was no end. And Tuco in Breaking Bad, as much as he was a nightmare, in retrospect, had a kind of sad, short run as a character. Kind of was killed off pretty quick. So that's why I think a lot of people are excited about his return in Better Call Saul here. And in this interview here, he goes on to say some interesting things about working on set with Bob Odenkirk. And, the fact that he views Breaking Bad as a dark comedy and always has. So when we were approaching Saul, he says, again, it was a tense drama, but it's funny. Whether you feel uncomfortable and it's funny because of that, or funny because of the situations, or funny because of the players, it works. That genius scene in the second episode when Saul is once again scheming his way out of a sticky situation, this time with Tuco and some of his boys. No-Dose, the henchman he maliciously kills when high on meth in Breaking Bad, famously, again kind of steps up to Tuco and says something that Tuco doesn't like. that was brilliant writing. That was a great little flitter there, little flutter. But yeah, so the idea of it is comedy. That scene where he's negotiating how to hurt the two insurance scammer twins who disrespected his abuelita. Looks like do we have a guest about to enter or not?
Yeah, I think Logan's a go.
Okay. Joining us on this episode then, hopefully soon, Logan Metcalf, contributing writer to the Taste Basket blog. Once again, the blog to which this podcast is a companion.
Whoa!
Is he here?
Whoa!
Is this the same?
Here he is.
Great. All right,
hey, it's Logan.
Logan Metcalf is here.
Hello, everybody.
What do we anticipate maybe for the next episode, and maybe on the whole for the entire series?
Honestly, I don't know. And
yeah,
I
it's
like
tough,
that.
right?
Yeah, and I really like that. And going back to how, this just reminded me so much of Breaking Bad. That's how I felt watching Breaking Bad. I had no idea what would happen in the next episode. It was, so varied between episode and episode. One episode we'd have focus on, a fly, which was cool. And a lot of people are iffy about that episode. I like it. And then, the next one, we get, more story and stuff, or something major happens, like a character death. I honestly don't know what to expect, and I kind of don't want to, predict it, because I want to be,
right
in the moment when it happens.
I mean, I think one thing that it is sure to be explored is the relationship between Saul Goodman and Mike Ehrmantraut.
Yeah.
If we're talking about arcs, characters carried over from Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul, or in the context of the actual narrative in real time, the other way around, from Better Call Saul to Breaking Bad. Now, Mike is working as that toll booth operator.
He's a troll.
Yeah, like a parking, And to me, Mike, I just want to say Mike has always been my favorite character, honestly, in Breaking Bad. He's the voice of reason, especially towards the boiling point of the final season.
Yeah, he doesn't take anybody's shit.
No, and he's really a character you feel bad for. Again, folks, spoiler alert. Not only in that his death was totally uncalled for and
still
cringeworthy.
Still aggravates me.
Yeah, but the fact that he was really the only guy who knew his place and who wasn't stepping out of his comfort. Well, I don't know, out of his comfort zone. That might not be the correct way to phrase it, but sort of, he knows who he is. He knows what's a bad decision. He told Walter, towards the end there, you had everything. You had Gus, you had the lab, and you had to go and mess it all up,
Mm-hmm.
Just that, it was great to have a character who simultaneously was such a badass and who was so subversive, just in the terms that he was like an old man with a granddaughter who was like this incredible marksman shooter on the side, and like a weird cleaner for two different corrupt businessmen.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone with that ridiculous a background is the most grounded in reality and the most practical.
Yeah.
So very interesting character, and I'm interested to see how he becomes affiliated with Saul, especially because they're not so much getting along right now.
Right.
In Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
So yeah. And
it looks like it'll get worse by the preview for the next episode.
Right.
It shows Mike
with
throwing
the assault
him to the ground
there,
and putting him in an arm lock or some shit.
But
imagine that's where Gilligan and the writing staff get really lazy. In the next one, Mike is working for Saul and they don't explain it throughout the entire show.
Or every episode he's working someplace different and they never explain it. He's working at a fucking McDonald's the next episode. He comes in, I just want to whop. That's not a good Bob Odenkirk. Wow.
Whoa, that was Bob Odenkirk you were doing there?
I just want a Whopper.
Oh no!
You can't expect me to pull an impression out of my ass on the spot like this, guys. And I set myself up for it, but you know,
I just want a Whopper.
You know what? The funniest part of that slip up is the fact that I said he worked at McDonald's and he's ordering a Whopper, and that's Burger King.
Oh.
Yeah. So I screwed up on two huge levels there. Yeah, but I think you know what I mean.
I love that.
The joke's dead now. We don't need to continue with that joke.
And also, I'm making a prediction for the future of the show right now. It's bold, but I think, obviously they'll probably explore the Saul's brother Chuck in the show. Michael McKean's character, David St. Hubbins of This Is Spinal Tap. But I think Chuck will die, and I think Chuck might die not from natural causes. I'm saying that now.
Are you saying he's going to get murdered or something?
Yeah,
I think he's going to get whacked.
He does sort of have that air about him. He's kind of got a tragic sort of
and I feel like
air about him.
I feel like it might be linked, somehow to Saul, and that'll kind of weigh on Saul's conscience. Because even though, it's hard to, connect things like that, but in Breaking Bad, I don't recall any, mention of his brother or something. Maybe something awry happened, and that's kind of like one of his big demons. I don't know.
And maybe that influences his like whole tenacity as a lawyer that we see as like in Breaking Bad, this whole crooked go-getter guy who almost feels at times offended by situations that are legally not his personal situations, in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Maybe he has some kind of vendetta, although because, considering, the team didn't write, Better Call Saul while they were writing Breaking Bad, But as we've seen, Gilligan and the guys and gals of the writing team really do tie those subtleties up nicely and make it feel seamless. So yeah, maybe that's a good point. He does sort of have that vibe.
Yes.
Like he's very eccentric.
Right.
And even in that first episode, we know that Chuck means a lot to James McGill.
Yeah. You kind of get like that older brother, was his hero kind of thing, and
right.
So I'm hoping that this show would go on for 5 or 6 seasons, and I hope that sometime maybe in the midpoint of the series, the series order, that let's say the first 3 seasons we see Saul's rise to power, we see Saul become Saul, that we are introduced in the first Breaking Bad episode he's in. I'd really like that. Now, with the last 2 seasons, I would like to see... I would like those 2 seasons to take place in modern day. So, what I mean is the black... the show won't be in black and white, but it'll be the black and white segment from this first episode. Like a post-Walter White world. I think that would be really interesting. And I'd like to see, maybe Saul, getting back into the game somehow. Maybe with Jesse's involvement. Jesse survived the end of the series, and I think that'd be cool. And I think that ties into the whole thing about birth, death, transformation sort of thing.
Right.
We're seeing the rise of Saul. We already saw the death of Saul from Breaking Bad the series, and then we'll see the resurrection. A man
of many tragic identities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something interesting to play with. And Logan, when you mention when you mention the cold open of the first episode of Better Call Saul there, where we are looking at the post-Walter White world, of course we're going to see more of that. We have to. But the question is, as you posed, how much?
How much?
And that sort of reminds me of in season 5 of Breaking Bad, as we slowly got some peeks at Walt with his full head of hair after the year of his life, on his way to kill Jack and the neo-Nazis there, going back to his old house, all that stuff.
The New Hampshire era.
The New Hampshire era, all that stuff, was sort of hinted at, and it was very much spread out. It's very economically spread out.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with the black and white segments in season 3, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, with the plane.
Yeah, with the crash. Yeah.
With the... Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, if you guys couldn't tell, we love Breaking Bad, and now we love Better Call Saul. And
we do.
we hope you've enjoyed listening to us rap on some important issues and interesting things about the first 2 episodes of Better Call Saul. And as this is a podcast where we talk about a variety of different forms of art and entertainment, I'm sure we will be revisiting this show as it runs at least a few more times. And so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, like, comment if we're posting this on Facebook. Visit our Podbean page, our temporary Podbean. Check us out on YouTube, and of course, as always, log on to http://thetastebasket.com /. That's the blog to which this podcast is a companion. We will be writing some stuff on there, as we always do.
Yeah.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Better Taste Basket.
Better Taste Basket.
You better taste our basket. That's an interesting euphemism if I've ever heard one.
Should we end again with hypnotism, as we did on our last
we got
podcast?
A third guy with us. Why can't we up the ante there? So our listeners' brains are Bam Margera's ass in Jackass, 2? And we're branding him with but our brand is TB, the Taste Basket.
Okay.
The Taste Basket.
The Taste Basket. The Taste Basket.
The Taste Basket.
The Taste Basket.
The Taste Basket. Taste Basket.
Taste Basket.
Taste Basket. Base Tasket. Base Tasket.
Kevin, remember that one time when you said loosed basely instead of based loosely?
Yeah.
Let's hypnotize them now with loosed basely.
Yeah.
Loosed basely.
Loosed basely.
Loosed basely. Loosed basely.
Blue lights are blinking 4 o'clock in the morning. St. Trooper makes you wish that you'd never been born. Better call Saul, better call Saul. You want to tell the world you're in love with a girl named Fran? So you find an overpass and you say it with a spray paint can. Blue lights start a-blinking, those handcuffs click. You know who to call and you better call quick. Saul, Saul, you better call Saul. You'll fight for your rights when your back's to the wall. Stick it to the man, justice for all. You better call Saul.